Georgia Rudolph was born on the 15th of October 1948 in Medina County, Ohio. All of her life she had recurring dreams of being a young girl who was dressed from the turn of the 20th century. In her dreams, Georgia would describe many sensations such as being very cold and could smell horses and leather. She could feel herself climbing onto a carriage and could hear the sounds of horses' hooves as the carriage moved along the road. Georgia claims that the dreams began when she was about 5 years of age and had no idea what initially triggered them. The moment she started to have the dreams, there was not a month that went by where she would either have the dreams or would be drawing pictures of the girl in the dreams. What frustrated her most was that she knew exactly what the girl looked like, but every time she attempted to draw what she looked like, she could not get the exact likeness, and in frustration, she would screw up the paper and start again and again. Usually when a young child had visions and dreams of a past life, the dreams become less frequent as they get older. But in Georgia's case, as she got older, the dreams and visions only got stronger. Her dreams were always the same, as a girl dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and there were never any cars or any modern technology, but always from the same period of time, as if she was living in the late 19th or early 20th century. She would also dream of paddle steamers, which she'd never ever seen in her current life or in a picture. Georgia said that the recurring dreams and images were nothing like a childhood memory, but felt different. She said it was like taking a picture from her mind and then projecting it onto a screen, which would replay over and over again. Another recurring image was that of a river and a young man dressed in a brown suit wearing a derby hat. Sometimes the man was by himself, while other times he was with the girl, along with images of a horse-drawn carriage on a cold winter night. Because the images continued to haunt her, she decided to seek help and contacted a clinical psychologist by the name of Douglas Smith. When Georgia first contacted Douglas Smith, he initially believed she was suffering from childhood trauma that would keep recurring, or that she was suffering from multiple personalities in which she imagined herself to be another person. The psychologist said that the possibility that Georgia had reincarnated had never entered his mind. In 1984, when Georgia was in her 30s, he decided to use regressive hypnosis on her, which enabled her to go back in time. During the first session, he addressed her as Georgia, but while in a hypnotic state, Georgia replied, "I don't know who you're talking to." The psychologist then said, "Well, if this isn't Georgia, then who is it?" And her reply was, "My name is Sandra Jenkins." She said that she was born in 1895 and had a boyfriend. She said she had brown hair and brown eyes. At this stage, the psychologist was amazed by Georgia's vivid memory of the young woman, and saw Georgia as a down-to-earth person who surprised him about the amount of detail, including the emotive state of the young woman called Sandra Jenkins. After being regressed, Georgia was now able to put a name to the face she continued to draw throughout her childhood, along with the young woman's memories and dreams. In later sessions, Georgia was able to give more detail of her visions, where she could clearly see Sandra Jean standing on a paddle steamer with a young man wearing the derby hat. His name was Tommy Hicks, and they were sweethearts who were about to be married. Under hypnosis, there appeared to be no doubt that Georgia was describing a previous life that she had lived that now terrified her, as it went against her religious beliefs and everything that she had been taught. Psychologists had no doubt that Georgia's experiences were real, about what she'd experienced in her past life, and could not have faked anything. In further sessions, Georgia was constantly drawn to the town of Marietta, Ohio. So in 1985, Georgia decided to visit the town in the hope of finding further proof of her childhood dreams that had haunted her. She also wanted further confirmation that she had lived a previous life and that the dreams were not childhood fantasy. On arriving, Georgia met a reporter by the name of Ted Bauer, who had lived in the town of Marietta all of his life and had worked for the local newspaper for 32 years. Bauer offered to take Georgia around the town, but instead she said she would show him where to go. After their walk, Ted Bauer was shocked to find out how much knowledge she had about Marietta, and that she knew more than some of the old-timers knew about the town, and considering that Georgia had never been to Marietta in her life. There was one point during Georgia's visit where they stopped in front of an insurance company and Georgia told them that the building was once an ice cream parlour and went on to describe what the interior in the parlour looked like. Keep in mind that this was 1985 and the ice cream parlour had closed in 1937. This was 11 years before Georgia was even born in 1948. Tepau checked a description of the interior of the ice cream parlour with the son of the man who had once owned it and found her description was totally accurate. He could not believe it. Now absolutely convinced that she had lived another life as Sandra Jean Jenkins, she was both frightened and excited, as her walk around the town of Marietta was proof. However, her search into the history of Sandra Jean Jenkins would hit a major snag when she could find no record of the young woman in the town. Georgia decided to take a search further when she visited the small farming town of Newport, Ohio, and once again was familiar with her surroundings. As she drove into Newport, the first building that stood out was a large grey house which sent chills down her spine, as she realised that it was the house that she had lived in. As she stood at the front of the property, she could see the room that was once her bedroom. Throughout Georgia's life, there was one particular dream that stood out from all of the others, which was a young girl standing by herself on the steps of a church. In that dream, she would walk 2 blocks to the cemetery, where she would follow a path to the right. The path curved and twisted before straightening out, where she found herself on the side of a hill that looked down on a grave, which she believed was her grandmother's grave. Unfortunately, in the dream, she was never able to make out the name on the gravestone, as it was at this point that she would wake up. Georgia was able to locate the church and was then able to recreate the dream by walking to the cemetery and following the same direction as her dream. She then stopped at the location where she would have woken from her dream and was finally able to read the name on the gravestone, which read Mary Bevan Green, which she knew was her grandmother. From the gravestone, she was able to trace back to the large grey house that she had dreamt about. The house had been owned by the Green family in the early 1900s. The Green family owned a fleet of paddle steamers on the Ohio River. On Hypnosis, the puzzle finally came together, where a few days before Sandra Jean Jenkins and Tommy Hicks were due to marry in 1914, Hicks was swept overboard in a storm on the Ohio River, and his body was never found. To make matters worse, Sandra Jean found she was pregnant, and to avoid family shame, took her own life by drowning in a lake. Because she had taken her own life, she was not allowed to be buried alongside her family, and was buried in an unmarked grave just a few feet from her grandmother. Under hypnosis, Georgia said that from Sandra Jean's unmarked grave, there was a small statue of an angel with its right arm extending upward. On a visit to the cemetery, she could see the statue of the angel close to where Sandra Jean and her grandmother were buried. Like herself, Georgia could not find any records of Tommy Hicks, but was able to find his parents, Tom and Jenny Hicks, where records showed that in 1906 there was a farm registered to Tom and Jenny Hicks in Newport, Ohio. Georgia was also able to trace the Green family's closest living relatives, who were finally able to give her evidence that Sandra Jean Jenkins had actually existed. They brought out an old family photo that was taken in 1908, and she was able to see a girl in the picture that she had been drawing her entire life. One of the family said that they do not know who the girl in the picture was, but she apparently drowned out the back of the house. In the family photograph, the girl in her dreams appeared to be standing apart from those around her. The photograph showed a list of names where every single person is identified except the girl Georgia recognised as Sandra Jean Jenkins. Unfortunately, Georgia Rudolph passed away on the 12th of February 2013 at the age of 64.